This is crazy because this is the second time I've tried to start this rant and rave and rant and ramble. And I'm watching a movie, but I think I'm more interested in talking about the day than I am watching this movie, but we'll see. Anyway, I just talked to Alice a few minutes ago. She was all energized up and everything, going to watch her grandson's basketball game, which is great. But she was also saying she had kind of a funky day and kind of a bad day, and different things that happened were ups and downs. And I said, Alice, I felt the same way. I just had a couple of days here which were ups and downs. It all ended up good, and that's why I'm going to talk about it now, because kind of all's well that ends well. But, you meet these challenges along the way, and situations come up that you don't expect. You're not quite sure what to do with them, but you deal with them. And as Alice said, you navigate the waters. And I think it's a great analogy, a great metaphor. So this was the last couple of days navigation. I talked about how I bought this backup battery for the home, and I was, angst about it, but excited about it, and thinking that I was justifying it as a home improvement and so forth. Then I hired their electrician to put it in. I met this young man. We spoke. We talked. He was very personable, very polite, well-spoken, clean cut, and he said he had a lot of experience putting in these installations. He does one like almost once a week. Well, I thought this is great. I really felt confident and good about it. So as the day went on, again, I went out there and videoed parts of it, took pictures, and tried to learn about the process as we went. And, it's a pretty labor-intensive thing, and he was really working away at it. At one point he said, this part's kind of boring. He said, I really like troubleshooting more than this and problem solving, and I understood that, and, we talked a little bit. Okay, we get to the end of the day, which had been a long day, and it's our Chevy Chase moment. We're gonna turn on this battery, and it's gonna power our house. And we turn it on, and nothing happens. Red light comes on, red light blinking. This kid is now searching the manual or whatever, searching his brain. What happened? What went wrong? What can we do? And he found some firmware updates and did that about 2 or 3 times. But ultimately, it did not work. Ultimately, we stood there, and, he said, this has never happened to me before. And he said, look, I put in your unit. He said, the thing doesn't work. That's the company's problem. I can't go inside the box. I can't, I don't know, that's not my responsibility, but I did the work for you. I installed it. And I was like, I said, basically, you're saying you wanted me to pay you. He said, yes, because I did this and that. I said, look, fine, you installed it. I get that. And I understand what you're saying, but I paid to get this thing working, not to just sit here. And so it was not really a Mexican standoff. He said, I'll send you an invoice, which to me gave me a breather. I said, okay, fine. So he left, and I went about my business for the evening. But when I walked down the hallway to my bedroom, I go in there, flip the light, no lights come on. Oh my God. The lights that I really needed, one of the rooms that we designated as, needed to run on the battery power, was the bedroom. No lights, with the power on. Okay? So now I have a bedroom that's dark. I'm sitting in the living room trying to figure out what happened and what I should do. And I ended up going out. Well, for one thing, I did Wordle. I have this sense of responsibility for doing Wordle, so I kind of worked my way through that. Then I went out to the garage, and I just reread the manual, went through the steps of hooking this battery and what they call the smart panel up. I just followed every little step, including using these little batten down hatches screws that they use to just tighten up the plugs. And so I did everything. I turned it on, and oh my God, this time it worked. It worked, and it was like, hallelujah, praise the Lord, this damn thing is working. I was excited. And so when it works, it means that it's charging up the battery from the panel. And then I said, let's try the other way, flip off the switch and see if the battery will power the house. And sure enough, those kitchen lights came back in. I was in heaven. This is working. I'm excited because he was basically telling me before he left, I would have to call the company and I have to tell them we have a defective problem, and then they would hire him to reinstall the new product when they sent it to me, and all this, and I didn't like any of that. But so he wasn't being rude or anything, but he definitely was setting up barriers that, what he could and wouldn't do. So at this point, I'm like, look, I got it working myself by walking through the steps. In the meantime, I went back and checked my bedroom, and it still wasn't working. So with or without the battery, the bedroom wasn't working. That was not me. That was not the equipment. That was his installation. So now I felt like I had, an angle on this thing, and a legitimate angle on this thing, because he had been saying how, he was the electrician who did the wiring, not the actual product. Anyway, bottom line was, I went to bed. I get up in the morning. What's the first thing I see on my email? A letter from him saying he's added a late fee to my bill. Man, oh man, oh man. Adding insult to injury, I was now not happy. So in the meantime, I said, look, the main thing here is getting him back over here to do the work. I now have a hole in my wall. I've got this installation done. But, if it doesn't work, the idea of sending it back is just crazy. So bottom line was, my ultimate goal was to have this thing work. His ultimate goal was to get paid. I thought, look, let's negotiate on this thing. Let's work it out. So I approached it just that way. And when I texted him or whatever, vice versa, he said he would come over. He would walk through and take a look and see what happened with the breakers or whatever happened with the lights in the bedroom. Okay, so we did that. And when he arrived, we were friendly and, amicable, and we went in the house and I showed him. And then he started diagnosing it. He said sometimes these breakers work in tandem. So essentially, I had to unplug everything that might be plugged in. I did that. We were communicating. I unplugged everything, and he got the breaker to work. And next thing you know, those lights in the bedroom were on. Well, there was a second, another Chevy Chase moment. I mean, it was exciting. I got what I wanted. I got my battery working, and now I have my bedroom lights working. So I was thrilled for that. He was very, very congenial. He apologized. He said, look, I want to apologize for yesterday. He said, it was a long day. I was frustrated. When it didn't work, I couldn't figure it out. And, I was frustrated, but I didn't mean, I'm sorry for the nastiness or whatever. And I said, that's okay. I'm good with it, but I do appreciate your apology. And so my message to myself here, and for what it's worth in this podcast, is, take your time. Navigate the waters one paddle at a time. Take your time. Don't overreact to the situation. And for myself, don't immediately see yourself as a victim or as you got to stand your ground or whatever. Just let the situation kind of unfold. Step back for a few minutes and be conscientious in terms of what your ultimate goal is. And, I have a reputation for being the refund king. I have a way of getting my refund. If I've been wronged, I will get my money back. But I don't go after it like a maniac. I just, talk my way through each step, through each person, and generally end up being successful. With this situation, it's a one-man show. And, he's a young man running his own business. But my point in saying all this is it worked out because neither one of us lost our temper, and we were civil towards each other, and we did solve the problem. So that's my message. That's my rant and ramble. Take your time. Don't overreact. As the old saying goes, count to 10. As Alice said tonight, navigate the waters. And as I say to myself, nothing is the end of the world. Nothing is that big a deal that you won't get through it. Just keep that in mind when you're in the midst of something. You will get through this, and everything will be all right. So speaking of that, I'm killing a little time to watch this game finish. I do want to see the game end. That's one reason I stopped the last recording or redid it. What other words of wisdom can I give or can I remember from? Oh, my neighbor. Okay, so my neighbor Abby. Oh gosh, shouldn't say names, but my neighbor was upset when she saw a truck parked in her parking space, and apparently she had words with him. And she said, "You can't park here because this is my space." And he came in and told me about it. And I said that doesn't sound like her, but whatever. People can get rambunctious about their parking spaces. Anyway, ultimately, apparently, a little later that day when he came out, she apologized to him, and he came in and told me that. I said, "Well, that's good. That's nice to hear." So then today, or later today, I got a text from her apologizing again for talking to my electrician that way, and she didn't know who he was, and she was concerned. And so here again was another act of kindness by being patient and by turning the other cheek. I'm going to do a whole series about Jesus' teachings because I swear he did lay it out. He laid out, the truth and the way to get through life. And turning the other cheek often is the best way. It doesn't mean you're a wimp or a pushover. To me, it means taking a moment to see the other person's point of view, and instead of getting all riled up about it, just give it a few minutes, turn the other cheek, show some kindness and understanding, and that should work for both of you. And I have had, a good experience with that today. So those are 2 episodes, one with my electrician and one with my neighbor, both of which worked out to the best. And same thing with Alice. She had a rough day, but she had a good experience mixed in with some of the issues, and I'll let her tell those stories. But, being friends with Alice, being friends with everybody that I'm friends with, and my daughter and my cousin, all of these people have basically saved my life because they've kept me going. Oh, and something else came up today that was completely unexpected. Now I'm agreeing to pay the bill, okay, which is a pretty hefty bill, but this is the cost of living. So we're talking about it, and he apologized and he took the late fee off, and he sent me the bill. He said, "Well, but if you want to pay by check instead of credit card, I can do that too." I don't know what it is. I almost said, "Lauren or Tess, honey." When he said you could pay by check, I teared up. It was so odd. It just, pay by check. I never used checks. Tess had a checkbook. She always kept checkbooks. She always used checks. I never used them. The checks were Pete and Tess, and that's what I had to say to him. I said, "I don't have any checks," because the checks we used to have were Pete and Tess. And, whether that's really, anyway, that apparently was the trigger, just that reminder of Pete and Tess. And such a non-romantic thing, a checkbook, but still, it had meaning to me. And that's what I learned as I go along. And, again, going back to Alice, navigating the waters. Things that were just commonplace that had no significance or financial or emotional value, suddenly they take on some kind of meaning. And I think my experience is not completely unique. I think people who have lost their spouse of so many years, they've become paired so much to where you're not even aware of it. You're not thinking about it. But I was saying, whether it was in one of my rants or not, I was saying that, things I don't do anymore. I never go to Chick-fil-A. I didn't consciously stop going. I just, don't go because I don't particularly like Chick-fil-A. When it was Tess, and we're only talking a few months ago, I would go to Chick-fil-A almost every day, almost twice a day. She she got to where she only ate certain things, and anything she would eat, I would get for her. She loved Chick-fil-A club sandwiches, so I'd go and get it for her. And I was happy to go get it for her. And, that's part of being in love. And I was talking to somebody else in the neighborhood, and her brother is taking care of his wife, who is now very disabled, and he has to take care of her and, do everything for her and all of her personal things. And she was saying that, she's so wonderful for doing this. And I said, yeah, he is. And I agree with you. But this is giving him purpose and giving him meaning. And she agreed. It's a weird thing. Not weird, but I mean, when you love somebody and you grow old with them, there's kind of nothing that can happen that you are not willing to do because you love them. And personal bodily functions and stuff that I'm so, modest about. When you're a couple, when you have grown up together, you're not even, you don't care about that stuff. She is me and I am her, and that's it. And that's the way I feel. But I cannot imagine having that level of intimacy with anybody else in my world, in my life. And now that I know that that's part of what a relationship involves, that's not a good thing. I repeated our vows for her service. And, for rich or for poor, that's a big one. And boy, when you go through the ropes there, it's a big deal. And in sickness and in health, that's the clincher right there. That ain't no weekend sniffles. That is, as some people have gone through, caring for somebody with, a terminal disease and taking care of them every day of their lives until their lives are no longer. It's brutal. It is brutal. And, but when you love that person, you do it. You can do it. And here again, I have to tip my hat to nurses who do it without being in love with that person and yet taking care of people in that state, which has to be incredibly difficult. I'm hoping that this game ends. I can't keep talking, ironically. Maybe I'll just shut up and let the game finish. And I'm going to watch this movie. Anora is the name of it. It won Academy Awards. I was very disappointed to see the results of the Academy Awards because the movie about Dylan was just a great movie. It's extremely well done. The story of a guy who is one of the icons of our generation. And they just did a remarkable job. And Ed Norton was the only guy who won an Academy Award for it. I think he did an outstanding job. I really do. I know him from another movie, I think, called Rounders. Was it Rounders? And anyway, a completely different character. And he pulled this movie off being Pete Seeger. I mean, you would believe it was him. So an incredible job. But the kid who played Bob Dylan was fantastic, too. So I don't know how or why certain movies don't make it, but it's been my very limited experience that the Academy Award winners are not really necessarily the best movies. And I've had that experience several times. So, but I'm going to watch this thing. I don't think they're going to win. I think we're just going to have 50 move draw, and enough is enough. So thanks for listening. Navigate those waters and give peace a chance.